Hey guys, Pete here. Today I'm going to preview Yellowjackets Season 2, Episode 8. The penultimate episode is here, and we don't have any promo photos as of yet, but we do have a teaser trailer to break down. Episode 7 did a lot of work to get us ready for the final 2 episodes, and made a promise that big things are going to happen before we get there.
So this is what you've all been doing, chasing blackmailers and murdering lovers?
That's a little reductive.
The title of episode 8 is It Chooses, and the episode description reads, "Shh, it's only going to get worse from here." Despite the whole winner's never going to end thing, the 1996 New Jersey State Girls Soccer Champions decide to start their spring training early with an impromptu cardio session. Callie encounters an old flame, Van proves goalies never say die, most of the adults intentionally commune in the sharing shack, and Lottie, baby, I hear the blues are calling for tossed salad and scrambled eggs. For that first line, given that there was a literal burial on the horizon going into episode 7, I found myself wondering how else that title would apply to what happens. Ever since the official Season 2 trailer came out, people were guessing that the shot of the crime scene that we saw in that would turn out to be the police discovering Adam's torso. So I thought that there might be a connection there. But it turned out to be that, but also a lot more than that. When they were all together, Nat asked the other adults what they remember about their time in the wilderness, and Ty responded that some of those memories have just been stuffed somewhere deep down. The idea of burying your memories seemed to line up with things getting worse, and a darker turn now that the promise of a new baby isn't there to hold the group together. And boy, did we see hints of that when Shauna beat the crap out of Lottie at the end of the episode. I'll come back around to the impromptu cardio session and Callie encountering her old flame. The last line is interesting. It's a reference to Frasier's theme song. When I looked that up, they wanted to show what Frasier does for a living without referencing it directly. Tossed salads and scrambled eggs are foods that are mixed up, just like Frasier's mixed up collars, and you get the idea. In case you don't know, Frasier is a psychiatrist by trade, and this connects nicely with Lottie acting as her own therapist throughout this season. There was something off there, we could see that coming. It was something that we kind of figured out before she did, which made it wild to watch it play out. From what we saw, she thought she was seeking out help because she was starting to have visions again. She wasn't exactly getting good advice, but this reveal shows that she was a lot farther gone than she thought, and now she's had that realization. And since it ends with the therapist dressed as the Antler Queen, it seems like things will take a turn in the present as well. The trailer opens with the adults all together in Lottie's sharing room. It sounds like they're filling her and Van in on what happened last season, which, as we were reminded in the last episode, was only a week ago in this timeline. Shauna thinks it's a little reductive to describe what they were doing as chasing blackmailers and murdering lovers. But considering Jeff's call at the end of episode 7 and how that puts Shauna, Ty, Nat, and Misty all on the hook for what happened to him, it does seem like those are the most important details. What's not said here, and what likely won't come out, is all of the additional deception and complications that go with that. How Jeff was the blackmailer, how Ty had hired Jessica to figure out if any of them would go public about what really happened in the wilderness, and that Misty killed her. As far as coming clean, I'm not sure if Misty will make it known that she met Walter because of his interest in Adam's case, but he does seem to be in a unique position to either help them or make things worse. After her trip inside the sensory deprivation tank, she's ready to open herself up to him, but still doesn't know what the last messages he sent her say or how he'll react to the news that Adam's torso has been recovered. Because this is Yellowjackets, and because they appear to be so right for each other, it's hard not to think that it'll all go wrong in a hurry. I had been thinking about those messages and wondered if they might be about Lottie, because I do think he would go look into her after Misty sent him away from the compound. We were reminded in episode 7 that Lottie was in Switzerland over a decade ago, but that implies she was there for a long time after they were rescued. I'm not sure how any of that fits into the end of of this season, but I'd like to learn more about what Lottie did before she was leading this intentional community. In the wilderness, we hear Ty say, "We need to find a way to stay alive, and it can't be her." Then we see her watch Mari and Misty placing the skull on a stool, and that unsurprisingly, after the beating that she took, Lottie is out of commission. The way Ty says it can't be her leads me to believe that Lottie will be that way for some time, that she's not there to take on any kind of leadership role, and I like this idea. We're getting to the end of the season and expecting something major to happen in both timelines to set up what happens next. At this point, I think having people follow Lottie into some ritualistic shenanigans is less interesting than seeing them doing it themselves. Does it make sense for Ty to be the one to push for it? I guess that depends. I think Shauna will resist because she sort of has to. I mean, she'll likely be remorseful for what she did to Lottie, but I don't think that's a direct path to becoming a true believer, and I think Nat will also still be against this idea, at least to a point. Going into Burial, I was wondering how the baby's death would be interpreted by everyone who spilled blood hoping the wilderness would intervene and save him. Melissa and Jen brought up the idea of the wilderness taking him and possibly giving them something in return. This is something that the show has put some effort into making us think about throughout the series. Most recently with the drop of blood on the baby blanket followed by birds falling from the sky, and Javi's return after Lottie slashed her palm. Lottie matter-of-factly declares that the wilderness did intervene by saving Shauna, and given the situation, you can see how she'd adopt this point of view, and why that explanation would be appealing in that it would mean things aren't completely out of control. She also emphasizes that it doesn't trade or haggle, so it'll be interesting to see how the other people interpret that. I zoomed in and still couldn't really make out what the offerings are. It looks like the knife is there and a hair comb, but since the candle is in the middle, there's a shadow that makes it hard to see what else is there. Lottie does look like she's in bad shape. There's a shot of Misty taking care of her, and one where it looks like she's having a dream. They were already starving and things were desperate, but her being in this condition could intensify things and make them feel like they have to act fast. Lottie being close to death and dreaming could deliver some interesting visions. Obviously, there is something going on with Jackie's death dream and the near-death dreams that have been spread throughout this season. I'm expecting the Hunter, aka Cabin Daddy, who welcomed Jackie to make another appearance before this season ends, and there are pretty credible rumors that we'll learn more about his story in a flashback. When that first came up, I wondered if Javi's friend might be connected to that, since his story is supposed to be like The Shining, and in the one behind-the-scenes photo that's out there, he was holding his daughter. This shot is of Melanie Linsky's husband, Jason Ritter, who was announced to be in this season. He's not the same person that played the character in season 1, but I mean, he's wearing that same jacket, the only warm jacket they found in the cabin, that just about everyone wears at one time or another. There's a voiceover of Callie saying that her mom is like seriously effed up, and then we see the cops show up at their house. It looks like they do some tricky editing here because you see Shauna standing there, but in other trailers, it showed that Jeff opens the door with Callie standing right there behind him, and then their family portrait gets splashed with blood. Based on everything else that's happened and has shown up in trailers, this seems more likely to be a vision than real. But I mean, something crazy is bound to happen in these last couple of episodes, so I guess we'll have to wait and see. Either way, this is now a murder investigation, and it's at their doorstep. After that, adult Lottie says, "We don't get to decide, it chooses," which lines up with where she's at and how she understands the power of the wilderness. There's a tray there with a ceremonial drink for each of them. I don't have a great idea what's happening there, but at the very least it indicates that they're in agreement to work together. This idea of not getting to decide goes both ways. It helps them move forward, it chooses something, then they move forward and do something they have to do, but also sort of absolves them from responsibility when they're making hard decisions. I imagine this is something that will come up throughout the rest of the series. What's more interesting is that this is followed by Van shuffling the deck of cards so that someone has to pick one. We've been expecting that these would come into play. The popular theories are that this is how they'll pick who the Antler Queen is. If that's a rotating position, with Lottie out of commission, they might be picking who will lead a ritual. Or the other theory is that this is how they'll choose their victims when they get to where they are in the pit girl scene. It still feels a little early for them to be hunting each other, at least like this. If Javi were to freak out, could I see them hunting him down? Possibly. It would take something crazy, but I guess they could turn on someone. This doesn't look like that kind of situation, though. If they're picking the cards, that means that they would have to have a consensus that this was a necessary thing to do to survive. Shauna just lost a baby and Lottie's near death, so they're plenty traumatized. But the way this is put together also feels like it's trying to misdirect us. The thing you see after the cards is Mari with a scared look on her face, and then she looks terrified as she backpedals across the room. In that shot, it looks like everyone else is just lounging around rather than waiting to find out who their first victim is going to be. This sequence with Mari has been around since the first trailer, and I have no idea what is scaring her. We still haven't gotten a payoff for her hearing the dripping sound. That seems like something they have to tie up, so it's possible that she's just freaking out. Also, I think you're supposed to connect this with the scene of them running with the weapons and think they're hunting one of their own a la Pit Girl, and Mari is clearly with them in those shots. So even if they are hunting a person, all of these things aren't connected. That said, the look on Van's face while she's shuffling the deck and the way that everyone who's standing around her looks, this all looks very important and will set the stage at the very least for more sinister things involving the cards as time goes on. The scenes that look like they're charging into battle are the same way. They've been around since the first trailer, and it's very hard to say what's happening. I was happy that we got to a place where the crystal isn't real theories died out, but then you have to ask, where did her body go? These two things could be related. I think the implication is that something or someone moved the body. I think Misty looked in the right place. I don't know what purpose it would serve for her body to still be there undiscovered, so that narrows things down to an animal taking her body to feed on it, or other people coming across it, people we haven't met yet, moving the body. Javi survived for a long time, and we still haven't found out how. All we know is that he told Ben that his friend told him not to come back. I'm not a big fan of the other tie being that friend. I think it works in the sense that there is a possible rational explanation that that's what happened, but in my mind, I just think it seems a lot more likely that this hints that there's someone else out there or possibly some sort of entity that he came across. There's also that weird detail of the girls asking Javi where he got the queen card in passing that was so subtle it almost has to be important. You could see them chasing after an animal, but it would almost have to be a situation where they thought it was a gift from the wilderness, and then that influences them to do crazy things later. At this point, I just hope whatever they're doing here is exciting, and I'm happy that we're finally going to find out what it is. The only other shots I didn't mention are quick ones. There's one of Teen Ty covering her face inside the cabin, one of Travis grabbing something from Aquila, which is probably Nugget related, and one of Van grabbing her weapon as they run out of the cabin. That makes the chase scene seem like it's something that is developing in real time, not something that they planned out. It looks like they're reacting to something that's happening right then. So let's just hope it's not something like a wolf standing in the front yard carrying Shauna's baby, which wasn't buried that well at all. When I was watching her do that, I did wonder if it would go missing like Crystal did. It seems like it was in a place that she would notice, and that could certainly cause her to continue freaking out. And she does still look pretty unhinged in the one shot we see of her inside the cabin. So that's about it. I'm curious to see what happens with Ben now that he came back from the edge. I feel like it could go either way. I don't think he would kill himself anymore, but could still see him dying in a totally different way, like where you think he's safe and boom, something happens. Or he could do a big turnaround, which seems more likely. I thought it was notable that Misty sort of cycled through all these different threats to try to get him to come back down off the ledge. Nothing turned him around. He even seemed like he wanted her to tell the world he was gay, like he was making peace with that in the life that he wanted to live. But it seemed like what actually turned him around was that he didn't want to put them through that he does care for the team. And if he was suicidal and he didn't really care about himself, it would be natural for him to turn the corner and try to find a reason to survive. I don't think Ben survives, or at least I don't think he goes back to civilization. I'm not sure how it will play out, but I think if he does survive, there's a real chance that when they get rescued, he'll stay behind. Van's cancer is another thing. It doesn't look like anything in the trailer is directly related to that, but with Lottie coming unglued, you have to wonder what she might suggest they do if she finds out about it. She's already cut her palm and made an offering and asked for that to be all that was necessary, but it seems like the answer that she's getting might be that it wasn't enough. There are a lot of loose ends and dangling threads for them to pull on in these last 2 episodes. It should be exciting and hopefully a lot of fun. Let me know what you think's going to happen in the comments. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.